Hello, this is the Sanfou portable outdoor power station 600 watt model. This unit is 160 amp hours and it's also 576 watt hours, so I think we can work out the volts from that. 576 divided by 160 is okay, 3.6. so I'm guessing this is lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt. Let's switch it on, but actually first I'll peel this cover off. And then to switch the unit on, press and hold the on-off switch, and there it is. Oh yes, now that's not flickering in real life. Actually it looks pretty good in real life. I've brought it inside and as you can see it looks fine. Now one of the things that interested me about this unit is that, let's turn on for example the 12 volt DC, is this. There's an indicator for voltage and actually it shows all sorts of interesting things. If I turn on the AC outlet you can see 220 volts, and if I turn off and back on the DC it shows 12.6 volts, and it also shows some interesting voltages when you're using USB type C. So here is the Sanfou website, sanfoupower.com, and you can see under products that they do solar panels, solar generator kits and portable power stations, and this is the 600 watt 576 watt hour power station that I'm looking at today. Accessories supplied, nice and simple this. There's a mains power pack and a user guide. Mains pack is 98 watts, so to charge 576 watt hours it's going to take about 6 hours. Okay, let's test the AC output. Quite sensibly the outlets are mounted upside down so that the wire comes upwards. Switch the unit on and turn on the AC. Now, can it run my new ice making machine? This is only 150 watts, but it does take a monster surge when the compressor comes on, so let's check that out. Well, that's definitely making ice, so the compressor must be running, and in fact this is taking less power than I thought it would. 87 watts. And there's the voltage indicator, 220 volts. My ice is ready. This is the fun bit. Ice cubes delivered into the basket. Let's try something a bit heavier duty, this oil-filled radiator. So I'll switch on the 400 watt fan first. That's come on, that's down there. And the fans on the Sanfou have powered up. I think that's where it blows out, yes it does. And we've got 400 watts approximately there. And it seems quite happy handling that. Let's switch that off and turn on the 800 watt oil filled radiator. It says 800 watts but it's now shut off, so certainly the cutout works if you exceed the 600 watt rating. Let's have a look at the 12 volt output, and I'm having to charge my phone because it's low on power. To switch on the 12 volt output, single press, and you can see that 12.6 volts is indicated on the voltage display. To switch it off, press and hold. The 12 volt output would typically be used for lights or possibly air pumps for inflating inflatables, but let's check the current on the 12 volts. I'll switch it on. It says 12.6 here. Let's wind the current up and see what we can get it to. Oh, 5 amps. Oh, 8 amps. 10 amps. I think it cut out possibly at 11 or 12 amps. Certainly there's no 3 amp current limit on here. Let's try it again. Yeah, that's holding a sustained 5 amps. Let's just push it up again. Not sure that cable's good for these high currents, but 11. Yeah, so I think the 12 volt output is good for at least 10 amps. Things get interesting when you use USB Type-C, particularly the PD 100 watt output, which is also an input. My phone, for example, it's plugged into the phone that I'm actually using to shoot this, can't decide whether it wants 5 volts or 9 volts. So at the moment 5 volts 1.1 amps, so that's 5.9 watts. This RAV Power power bank is charging, and you can see that it's requested 20 volts and it's pulling 30 watts. So we can work out immediately that's 1.5 amps, and in fact you can see that on the Ruideng meter. But by pressing and holding the button on this RAV Power power bank, I can actually get it to change direction. And now we can see that it's 20 volts. We've got the in symbol on here, and it's actually gone up to 56 watts because this power bank can put out 60 watts and it can take in power at 30 watts. Let's just check the Ruideng. Of course that's being driven backwards, so we're not getting an amp or watt figure, but it's definitely 20 volts. This Chromebook laptop tablet thing is drawing 19 watts or 20 watts at 9 volts. And we'll just check this device. Yeah, 9 volts, 2.3 amps, so that's about 20 watts. One interesting thing, if the unit is switched off and you plug in a USB-C device into the PD100 output, then you can see that it switches itself on. So I'm just going to use this PD trigger now to go through the voltages. So we've got 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, see the little light on there, green, 15 volts is teal, and blue gives us 20 volts. Interestingly, the PD27 watt output, I'll just plug my phone in, doesn't cause the unit to power up automatically. You have to switch it on and wait for the USB-A subsystem to come on. My phone's just indicated that it's now charging. You can see 5 watts. Also, the PD27 output doesn't show its voltage on the voltage display. I was thinking PD27 watts, 27, that's got to be 3 times 9, so 9 volts, 3 amps. But actually, this RAV Power is calling for 12 volts and 2.25 amps, which of course is more efficient, so that's better. There's also a light on the back which has 3 brightness levels, so if you press and hold it, it comes on at the lowest, medium and the brightest, and then if you press it again it does flashing and strobe and SOS. I won't subject you to that. Cigarette lighter socket output. Can it boil this glass of water? 12.6 volts, 118 watts. Let's see if it'll boil. A few minutes later, yes, that's bubbling away nicely. What does the thermal imaging say? Not quite boiling yet, but yeah, getting hot. And finally, can you charge it using USB-C input, the PD100 watt one, at 100 watts? Well, not with this cable. This one came from Lidl and it's only rated up to 60 watts. Apparently, you have to have an E-marker chip to get 100 watts. I think I have one of those cables. So I've plugged in my 2-key cable, and that's coming from another power bank which can deliver 100 watts. And yes, there we are, 97 watts, 20 volts. So that's 5 amps in that cable. The question is, does it get warm? Down at the sending power bank, certainly the cable says 100 watts PD. What about the temperature? Yes, it's getting warm. What's that? 63 degrees. And of course, the longer you leave it, the hotter these connectors get. And at the receiving end, yeah, that's also getting warm, 43 degrees. I'm quite interested to know actually whether the compatible solar panel to this power bank plugs in via the USB Type-C, or whether it plugs in on the side here via that DC input, which is where the AC power adapter plugs in. So yeah, this is a really cool little power bank. The thing that drew my attention to it particularly was this voltage display for AC, 12 volt DC, and also USB Type-C, and you can see it here cycling through the various voltages: 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 volts, and 20 volts. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Cheerio.